Hey everyone, it's Jordan again with Main Deck, and today I got a more defensive deck for you for the My Hero Academia format for Universe's card game. Let's check it out. Alright everyone, like I said, today I'm going to be bringing you a more defensive take on Shigaraki under Death. I know a lot of people like really going hyper aggression, but I thought I'd just capitalize, sit back on his once per turn ability, and then use his potent defense combo to kind of bring out the game just a tad and really make those one or two attacks you throw each turn very potent. So let's go ahead and we'll just get right into the meat of this deck. So of course, we're starting off with Shigaraki. His character is a 6-hander, 28 health, very standard. Nothing really out of the box here. He has Death, Evil, and Fire. Of course, as stated, this particular deck will be built under Death. He has 2 responses. One is a once per turn after your non-throw attack deals damage, your opponent loses 5 health. And this does not have a cap. It doesn't say like some effects will say, it can't reduce below 1. So this effect can kill your opponent. Very important distinction between some of the other life drain effects in the game. So very good. The whole idea is you're just going to try to push just 1 attack, maybe 2 if you know they don't have blocks or something. If they're wide open, obviously you're going to keep railing on the damage. But the main thing is you want to just try to get at least 1 attack through each turn so you can capitalize on this 5 health every turn. So let's say at minimum your attack does 1 damage. You'd plus the extra 5, that's 6. Most characters, that's, 3 to 5 turns, and they're going to be on death's door, if not already dead. Again, most of the time, if they take damage, it's not just going to be 1. Sometimes they just can't block attacks, so they'll be taking something more like 11 with the 5 plus the 6 to 4 damage they'll take from their attack. So again, very potent, and this is what we're going to try to abuse, along with the defensive combo, which we'll get to when we get to the attacks. But part of the defensive combo is this second response. Response, commit. After you completely block an attack, your rival destroys 1 readied foundation. I like this for 2 reasons. A, it's a little bit more engaging than some of the previous iterations of characters that have a destroy effect on them. In this case, you actually have to succeed at blocking to get it, and it has to be a complete block, not just any old block. But it really rewards you for that, and it helps stop the momentum, which allows you to play your attacks a little more slowly to capitalize on that first response. So they both kind of feed into each other there. And I love that it specifically targets a readied foundation, so that cuts your opponent's turn short because they have to destroy something that's ready, meaning it's less resources for them to play stuff. So there's less of a chance that they're going to be able to really do a lot on their turn, assuming you can do this once, twice, maybe even 3 times in a turn, which we'll get into once we get to our attacks. And with that, actually, we're going to cut to the action cards first, then we'll go over the attacks, and then the foundations, and then some cards to consider in the sideboard. Again, I don't do normal sideboards for these videos. Sideboards are very meta-dependent in some cases, or on your own preference. I like to use the sideboard here just as a discussion piece for cards I find interesting or I think might be worth testing out in the deck for future use, because it might be a good option. So I just like to list those out there. So without further ado, action cards. We're going to be running 5 in total. 3, Evil Gaze, Shigaraki's own ultra rare. It's a 0 cost action with a 1 mid block. Very nice, especially since we're going defensive. And it has Breaker 1, which again, very nice if you're trying to block with stuff. Its Enhance is the one you're going to be using most anyway, is lose 2 health. This attack gets +2 or -2 speed, so it both helps with your blocking game and helping you push through that attack or multiple attacks to really finish off your opponent and to capitalize on that -5 health. And if the attack is blocked, you destroy 1 rival foundation, and then you'll remove it from the card pool after you use it. So it gets rid of itself. It allows you to play both offensively and defensively depending on how the game is shaping out and who you're facing against. So it's a very versatile tool as well. And it pressures your opponent to not block even more. because they're going to lose a foundation. So they have to always choose that ultimatum of, do I spend a bunch of stuff because you pumped the speed, so they're going to have to pay most likely to block this attack. So they'll have to pay stuff and destroy a foundation, and you might be destroying more with some certain attacks. And it's just all around great. Or on offense, or on defense, sorry, you make stuff easier to block, and then when you block it, you get to destroy a foundation. And with Shigaraki's ability, you'll probably be destroying 2 at one time, which is very potent and slows your opponent down to, again, hammer home that -5 health. The Deadlock Enhance we'll go over, not too worried about it. You destroy one rival foundation straight up and then remove it from the game. Most often, you're never going to see this. Deadlock abilities don't happen often. People tend to keep under that 11 foundation umbrella, but it being in the game means it prevents your opponent from, or making them think twice before they go into deadlock. The next one, of course, is Plus Ultra. Used in a lot of decks. We're very defensive here, so I'm going to run 2. Again, this is a card that can be used both offensively and defensively. You need to push an attack through, spend a momentum, double its speed, or if they don't have blocks and you need to do that little extra damage, double the damage. But most importantly, when you attempt to block with this card, you reduce the speed of the attack to 0. At a +5 block, that means you just need to check a 5. Very reasonable to check. Even if you check an attack, you only got to tap 2. Makes it easy to block pretty much anything they throw at you and stop those really hard to stop attacks. And bonus, if it's a mid attack that you're stopping, you'll get to destroy something, assuming Shigaraki hasn't already been tapped. And we have 2 copies of those. Maybe run more if you really want to, but I feel 2 is the perfect amount. You see them when you need them, and you don't have them clogging up your hand when you don't need it. So now we'll go to the attacks, starting with 4 copies of Decaying Grip. This is a 4 diff attack, 3 mid, 4 damage. Pretty alright stats for a 4 diff, but this is the first response here is the really potent thing, especially with Shigaraki. Shigaraki only response after you block with this card, ready your character. So as something fires off in this game, so in this case after you block, you as the controlling player will get to choose the order these go in. So let's say he's already committed due to blocking something previously. You can then untap him with this, and since the attack is still in the phase where you're doing responses for blocking, you can then commit him again and destroy something else, or destroy something, untap him, destroy something again. It allows you to really loop that defensive and really punish your opponent for doing. Of course, it is a mid. There's a lot of mids in this game, but a lot of people like to run highs and lows, so it's not going to work every time, but it's going to really fire off on all cylinders when they're throwing mids out. It's also a 2 block, which isn't super amazing, but it's better than most foundations. The next one we're going to run, the combo enhance is there as well. I always forget about it because I pretty much always pocket this to block with because it's so potent unless I know the opponent has very little mids. But the combo enhance on this with Fury for the combo is going to be this attack can only be blocked by cards with printed block modifier of 3+ or greater. Now on offense, of course, this is very potent as well because even though it has a meager 3 speed, with a speed pump from Evil Gaze or some of your other stuff, you can get it to 4 or 5. With the opponent having to play a 3 block or higher, that makes it pretty hard to block, which if your back is against the wall, the only attack you have this turn, and you know they're not going to have a lot of mids, just throw it out there because chances are, assuming it's comboing, you're going to be able to push that attack through and capitalize on that -5 health. But again, I personally like to keep it in hand just to block with, mainly because being able to destroy 2 foundations or more, depending on how many times I can use Decaying Grip on the enemy's turn, really has a lot of potency to it and helps you clap back really hard on their turn, as they'll have less resources to stop your attacks. And it also just kind of makes it so they can attack you less. Moving on to the next attack, Merciless Rush. Merciless Rush is a great attack, 5 diff, great block, +1, low block here, high 4 speed, 5 damage attack, respectable stats for a 5 diff. It has a constant, which is your printed hand size. If it's less than your rivals, this attack has -1 difficulty. Doesn't happen that often as you're a 6-hander, but any 7-hander, you're going to get some value off of that. It has EX2 as a keyword ability. allowing, if you have the momentum, to just amp that speed a bit to make sure it gets through. And if that wasn't enough, it has a great enhance of if this attack is completely blocked, then your rival destroys 1 foundation. And again, our -5 is just if it deals damage. So if they half block this, it's not going to cut it. And if they do completely block it, now they have to destroy a foundation. So it puts them between a rock and a hard place where they either take a boatload of damage or they lose a foundation. So either way, you get value out of this card. Great card, and again, on defense as well, +1 low block. Great defensive option to help with our defense game. The next one is 4 copies of Naval Laser Beam. I haven't seen this card used a lot in really any deck, but I think it's kind of underrated. Its abilities are pretty great if you have a lot of flip effects. It is a 5 diff, 2 mid, respectable block, 3 mid for 6 damage, 3 mid speed, that is, for 6 damage. And it has Breaker 2, which makes it great. The fact that it's a mid and a fairly decent block means you can breaker stuff. If that mid block happens to be a complete block, you're also going to be able to destroy a foundation, making it increasingly hard for your opponent to continue their turn after that if you really cripple them. And then on offense, it has respectable 6 damage, of course. It has first enhance, discard a momentum. You can unflip 2 foundations. When we get to those, we have quite a few potent flip effects, such as super regeneration and a few others that are going to really benefit from this ability. And if you need that extra speed, or in some cases damage, you can just flip any of your foundations and get +2 speed and +2 damage by flipping a foundation each on this enhance. All around, I think great card. The breaker really sets it apart from other things. There's not a lot of things with breakers above 1 in this format right now. So breaker 2 is extremely potent. That's when it, after they play 1 or 2 cards, you hit them with this, especially if it's a full block and you're destroying a foundation. That's 3 extra cost, effective cost that you just put on their next card. Very good. Nothing really else to say about that one. Very solid attack, very solid on defense. The next one, we got 2 copies of Touch of Decay. It's a 4 diff, it's got a respectable high block of 2, and it's a 4 mid for 4 damage. It's got Stun 1, helping disrupt them a little bit, and it has Combo Fury, and that combo enhances Commit 1 foundation, and this attack is completely blocked. You add it back to your hand after your resolve. So this is part of the reason I only run 2, is because if that combo effect's going off, you just want to push through at least 1 attack each turn, and if this gets blocked, you just put it back in your hand, play it a second time until it finally gets pushed through. It does have the commit cost, but most of the time it'll be worth it. If you have already attacked twice and they blocked it twice, it's 2 cards out of hand. Unless they're just pocketing their whole hand to try to stop you from doing damage, then they probably don't have blocks anymore to stop the 3rd or 4th instance of this attack, letting you push through that -5 health in addition to any damage they take from this. It also has another enhance on if it's not blocked, you draw a card. So once it does finally push through, you get another card to replace itself and use for a block on the enemy's turn if it succeeds, or use on this turn if you need to do that finishing blow. All around, great addition. Again, I only run it at 2 of though, just because you're able to repeat its effect until you get what you want, essentially. I've debated adding more of these, but some of the other cards, so the other attacks in this deck already do so much for the deck that it's hard to cut a new place for it. And since we do play more defensively, you could just go up to 20 attacks, but you'd be running a little more aggro then, and you'd be checking a little less consistently, which totally up to you if you want to do that. But since I'm trying to stick to a primarily defensive plan, like I said, my idea for this was trying to make a very defensive deck that just pokes every now and then. Basically, you're going for the 1 big poke a turn and then holding back, and doing 1 big poke a turn and holding back. But yeah, so that's Touch of Decay. The next one is Float Combo, another respectable high block of +2, massive speed of 6 high for 4 damage. So its raw stats already are probably going to push its damage through, but it has a little extra potential here. If you combo it with a high attack, it allows you to switch the speed and damage. So if you know they can't block, or you're planning on pumping the speed up yourself, you can swap these to make sure the damage is more potent. So you can do a total of 11 damage with the 6 damage once swapped, and then the -5 health. It's just great. A lot of value. And this is the other reason this card is really in the deck, is this second Enhance. Enhance, if this attack is completely blocked, it still deals 1 damage. So no matter what happens, whether your opponent half blocks, whether they don't block, or whether they do block, they're going to be taking at minimum 6 damage from this attack. At maximum 11 damage plus any other modifiers. But just based on the character in this attack, that's a nice range of damage that they're going to take no matter what. Or actually, I shouldn't say it. I think there might be a card or two in the game that makes it so if something's blocked, it just gets set to 0. But I don't remember exactly how the rules work, if there's an effect that essentially does the opposite of the other one. I believe the can't always wins, so having it, not do any damage would win in that case. But that's a rulesy thing that we don't know the answer to at this moment. You might, but I personally haven't looked that interaction up yet. Main point to take away here is most of the time, this card is going to be great value for this deck and allow you to push that attack through no matter what. So that wraps up the main attacks here. We're going to then bop over to our foundations. If you couldn't guess, there's going to be a lot of defensive tools here and some speed pump to make sure you get your attacks through. Starting with Arrogant Disposition. This card just does all around value. It's a pretty easy spammable foundation at 1. It has a 2 low block, which is very respectable for a foundation. More importantly, it has the 6 check. This is primarily the reason I have it at 4 of. It's just the 6 check is really nice. I like having a 6 check in the deck. And Enhance, Commit, Punch Attack gets -3 speed really helps with your defense game. And since there's a lot of attacks that run around with Punch, All Might's very prevalent. Almost all his attacks are Punch. Almost all of Midoriya's attacks are Punch. A lot of other characters' attacks are punches. Chances are the opponent is going to be running some form of punch at some point in their deck. Not everyone will, obviously. And in those cases, it'll just be a nice build foundation with a decent block and a 6 check. But in my book, that's good enough to have a spot. 6 checks are very valuable. It's great. Moving on, we got 4 copies of Shock Absorption. Decent spammable foundation at 1 diff. Decent block at +2. It's a 5 check, pretty basic there. And then Enhance, Destroy. This attack gets -2 speed. Playable while committed. I love this because it lets you kind of like double dip. Not only can you reduce the speed of an attack when you really need that clutch block, but you can use it to block something else first, or use it on your turn to pay for offensive stuff and then still have its ability live on your defense to lower the speed. Great card. 4 of those, of course. The next one is 4 of Super Regeneration. The block is trash tier on this. It's a classic 2 diff 5 check, but we're really here for this ability. Response, flip. After you lose health due to your rival's attack or effects, gain 3 health. It just kind of mitigates that damage if you can't block something or if you half block something. To get the effects of like Evil Gaze, you just have to block it to destroy a foundation. You just throw any old block out there, take 3 or 2 to 4 damage on most attacks, healed 3 back. It was like almost nothing happened. In some cases, you'll gain health off of the block rather than lose health. And it being a flip means you can still use it to pay for stuff. It doesn't commit. You still have the ability to block and pay for attacks. And of course, we have a handful of ways to flip it back over and just heal again later on. Great card, and XR foil looks really nice, shiny. Next one will be Keen Observation at 3 of. Great spammable foundation. I go back and forth between having 3 copies or 4 copies because spammable foundations are nice, especially when we're trying to be defensive. Being able to get that foundation line out there as soon as possible to make sure you have a nice bank of cards to pay for blocks with is great. Respectable 2-up block. And it has response flip after your rival loses health due to an effect, which we're going to be hopefully firing one off every turn at the very least. They lose an additional health. This one, however, cannot kill your opponent. So if your opponent's at 6 health and you hit him with the -5, you can't flip this to end the game. But for the mid to early game, it really helps chip them away just that little extra bit. And since it's a flip effect, again, it's still a nice foundation. It's done its duty. It's a quick build foundation that allows you to still pay for stuff once it's done. We got Nervous Habit, a classic 2-diff 5-check, decent mid block at 2. Enhance, lose 1 health, your attack gets +1 speed. Only 2 copies because it's more niche. You're not always going to need that speed pump, and the response on it is also very niche. It's Destroy. After this card is committed due to your rival's effect, your rival destroys 1 foundation, and this is playable while committed. It's basically just some stun hate. You don't need a ton of stun hate. As far as I know, stun isn't super rampant in the game. So I think 2 of, you'll find it when you need it. You won't have it when you don't. And then I think we have another card coming up that also has some stun hate as well, so we don't need to have too much of that. The next one is Villainous Entrance, another great build foundation. Block, but it is a low block, which gives you nice coverage. Enhance Commit, your Fury attack gains 1 stun. Most of our attacks are Fury outside of the float, and I believe the laser. So, more than half our attacks are Furies. So you'll be able to add stun to add that little extra disruption on their blocking to help you push that damage through or end the game if need be. And then, of course, Flip after your rival builds a foundation during the combat phase, commit it. Playable while committed. Again, helps keep that pressure up once you start debuilding them and, causing them to commit stuff. It'll help you keep that momentum if they try to, build foundation from the top under Void or Earth with Kirishima cards. It'll come in committed, allowing you to have a turn to play with it before they get that resource really live. Or if they use something from Momo's kit to pull down a face-up foundation, it'll come in committed, so most likely they won't even be able to use that effect till their next turn. Just nice enough to have at a 2 of. Decent build foundation with 1 diff. The next one will be 2 copies of Someone with Style. We got the classic 2-diff 5-check, decent high block at +2. Response, destroy after this foundation is committed due to a stun ability. Reduce your rival's attack to 0 speed, and it's playable while committed. Again, this is one of those stun hates. It allows you to basically guarantee you're going to be able to block it, assuming you have cards in hand. 0 speed, unless they have some other crazy amounts of speed boost, is pretty easy to top deck, even if you're running 2 or 1 checks. So that'll just guarantee if they're stunning you to think twice or just allow you to block easy. It also has once per turn, destroy 1 foundation. Ready this foundation, playable while committed. It allows you to get that little extra gas if you really need to, there's a block coming up that's a little faster than you're comfortable with, or if you really just need to play that last attack to finish off the opponent. Just allows you to untap stuff and keep going, whether it's defensive or offensive. Next one will be 2 copies of Glamorous. We got a 3 low, 2 diff, 5 check. After you build this card, unflip a foundation. Another way, in addition to Naval Laser Beam, to unflip some of your more potent flip effects, primarily Super Regeneration, or something like Someone with Style. No, that's Destroy. The Villainous Entrance, if you're fighting someone who's really heavy on stun. And I believe we have one other card with a flip effect, which is First Day of Class, which we'll get to later, but you have multiple targets that you're going to be looking out for this. It's really nice to unflip those, and then once it does come to your stage, you have a great flip effect on it itself. This attack gets +3 speed, only playable if the attack speed is less than printed. So if they're trying to stop your attacks by giving it minus speed, or if you want to be really cheeky, you can give your own attack minus speed and then give it +3. Most of your speed hate is -2 though, so you're only getting 1 speed off of this. Not worth it, but if you math it out and the opponent can't block it, if it's only +1, this might be the way you want to go. Either way, primarily defensive, offensively defensive. If the opponent speed hates you, you can help boost that speed, make sure your attack gets through, capitalize on that -5. Sorry if I feel like a broken record, but that's really driving the point home. You want to stick to your defense, capitalize on the -5. Coming here to the end, we got In Danger, great build foundation. Only 2, because again, this effect isn't going to fire off a lot, especially since you have to be near death to do it. Enhance, destroy. If this attack's damage is equal to or greater than your current health, the attack gets -3 speed. So given how its ability is basically not live until the end of the game, you want to make sure you have it, but you don't need it clogging up your stage when you could be having more potent effects that can help you right now. 2 of basically, for most games, is going to ensure that you see it by the time you're on death's door, unless you just get bodied turn 1 or something crazy. And coming to our final main deck foundation, we got First Day of Class. Classic 2-diff 5-check, and coverage block of +3 on low, and response flip after this card is committed during the enhanced step. Ready it, playable while committed. And that is offensive or defensive. So let's say the opponent stuns you, you can commit it, and it's still the enhanced step, so you just ready it after you flip it. Great. Or if you want to do something like Touch of Decay, where you commit a foundation for it. I believe we don't have any other commit foundations. We have 1 or 2 in the sideboard here, but Touch of Decay, again, you're going to want to recycle it anyway. So having this, so you can just immediately ready your foundation to commit it again if it gets blocked again, or if you get stunned, perfect opportunity here to get value out of this effect. The other effect is also value town for you for the most part, is Enhanced Commit. If this is the first attack this turn, your next check to play an attack gets +2. This is primarily when you're not always going to get your attack through on the first attack, obviously. So it really guarantees your second attack. Most of these will be at minus, +1 progressive. So we got a 6 check here, 5 check, 6 check, 6 check, 4 check. With +2, that means you're at most going to be checking or needing to check, commit 1, maybe 2 foundations, depending on how lucky or unlucky you are. Actually, we don't run any 2 checks, so yeah, it guarantees you only need 1 foundation at most to play your second attack in the round. So that's very, very potent. You just commit this, and it all but guarantees your second attack. Basically, just use it if you know the opponent's blocking. If they have a bunch of cards in hand, everything's unchecked, you throw out like a Merciless Rush, they're probably going to block it because they don't want to take 10 damage unless it'll kill them. They're going to block it. This allows you to just guarantee that your next action goes smoothly, so you can keep as many things on your board untapped for defense, so you can ensure you have the power to block things. And that brings us to the end of the main deck. We'll cut right into the side cards. We only got 9. Set 2, there's a lot of options and changes that are going to happen in this deck, but right now we're just talking set 1. So First Day of Class and Endanger. Some people I know like running Endanger a little bit more just because it's a spam at 0. It allows you to get a lot of foundations out there, and then you just have multiple instances of it later in the match. If you do get to death's door quickly, you'll be able to really capitalize on blocking and blocking and blocking because you have that -3 over and over again. Another thing is sometimes people like having it out there because it's easy target for something like flip effects. So you are running Naval Laser Beam, flipping random foundations, you won't want to turn off your good powers, but if you're not near death, you can just happily flip one of these Endangers as there's 0. So adding a couple of those, not a terrible idea. Same with First Day of Class. I talked about how both abilities, you can get a lot of value out of it based on the kit we're running. Having a couple more of these, again, I would not fault you for doing it. Instant Shining Flash. It has a great +1 low block. Primarily the reason why it's in the sideboard is just because having really great blocks is really nice since we are playing that more defensive style. It allows you to flip the foundation to make your next card you attempt to play get -1 difficulty. So that helps you ensure that you're going to build if you attacked 2 or 3 times, or in some cases where you know the attack isn't going to hit, makes the next attack that much easier to ensure you can play it to push that damage through to get that -5. And then on response, you can, after you play the card, you discard a momentum, and it's play the card, not necessarily play the attack. So you can get that response on both playing it as an attack or with blocking it. That's part of the reason it's in here. It adds a little more value to your blocks because it's not only you blocking the attack, making them most likely complete blocks, so they're going to destroy foundation, they'll also have to discard a momentum. So you're just kind of draining all their resources with 1 card and stopping an attack. The next one is Blinding Cloth Capture. It has a fantastic high block. That alone makes it a great addition, but everything else in this also rings really great. It combos with combos, and we run, Decaying Grip as a combo, Touch of Decay is a combo, and Float combo, of course, is a combo. So we have a lot of targets for comboing off with this. If you've played an action card this turn, it gets -2 difficulty. We run 5 actions, 2 of which are generally played offensive or defensive. If you boosted speed on the previous card, chances are you've played an action with Evil Gaze. You can most likely get this difficulty down, really helping out with those, end game kills, or just throwing out some more damage if you have the extra attacks in hand. It's combo enhance, very potent. If you played an action card this turn, as I just said, you're probably going to have done that. You discard a card from your rival. Extremely great, especially since you're trying to push damage through or kill them in most cases. With this card, that makes them lose a block or lose a valuable card they were holding to attack you back with. Discard is, very potent in any game, especially in one where your cards in hand are resources both offensively and defensively. So that is a very easy thing to pull off. And then, of course, Seal a Rival Foundation. Turning off a powerful effect on your opponent's board, always a great addition. Basically, everything about this card is great. If the attacks weren't so stacked, I still might even consider replacing something like maybe, it's hard to choose, but I really want to work this card into the deck at some point. It has a lot going for it in this deck, given that we do use actions to really turn on all its effects, make it fire off on all cylinders, in addition to having a great block. So yeah, definitely a card to look out for and potentially put in this deck. We got Night Watch. It's a unique 2/5 response is remove it and then remove 1 action card from your discard pile. After your opponent plays a non-character enhance, cancel it. There's a lot of times where they're going to boost some speed or like make damage lethal. There's so many enhances you could stop with this that it's nice to have. We run 5 action cards. You're not always going to draw them. Sometimes you're going to check them. Sometimes you're going to have them discarded. So chances are you're going to have at least 1 in your discard pile. So you will be able to cancel some clutch play by your opponent, and that's what this is in here for. I'm highly expecting to add this within the next iteration. I might take out an Arrogant Disposition, since Punch isn't always happening, but I really want to fit in Night Watch. I might just even bump the deck up to 51 just to have Night Watch in there. Yeah, so great foundation. We use actions, so it has its fuel already built into the deck. Next one is Signature Right Swing. It has a great block. I think I'm going to say that about all the extra attacks that are in here, is they have great blocks, so it helps with our defense. It has a great enhance of discard 2 cards, draw 2 cards, helps you really find the stuff you want, lets you fish for the clutch attacks that you're going to want to both block or attack back with. Its stats are all right for a 4 diff, 3 high for 4 damage. It's a Fury, so it combos off our Furies. Yeah, wouldn't fault anyone for throwing this card in there as well. Latent Skill, kind of the same as the last attack, just in foundation form. We got Flip, discard 2 cards, draw 2 cards. We already have multiple ways in the deck to flip it back over if you really want to reuse it over and over again. Decent high block. We got Let's Fight the Bad Guys. Decent build foundation, decent mid block. Enhance, flip, your Fury attack gets +2 speed. As I said before, everything but Naval Laser and Float combo are Furies, so you're going to be able to help push that speed just over the edge to make sure you can get that attack through and get some damage in so you can get that -5 health. The last one in our considered cards is Turn to Dust. It's a 1 mid block, great block, high 4 for 5, decent stats, has stun 2, EX 2, so if you got some momentum, pump that speed up to high heaven, make sure it punches through, do some big damage. And then it also has 2 enhances, destroy 1 foundation. To destroy 1 foundation committed due to the attack stun, or your rival may lose 2 health. Either way, it's a win-win for you. You either are debuilding them or they take some damage, allowing you to get ever closer to just killing them outright. The next one is lose 2 health. Your rival loses 2 health and they may destroy a foundation to cancel it. Again, more life sap. The main reason I don't have it in the deck is, like I said, all the cards we already have, in addition to Blinding Cloth Capture, have such value all over the place. This one's primarily just offensive, and its costs aren't bad, but considering the other cards lift almost as much weight, if not more, for not having to destroy a foundation and lose 2 health, it makes me turn towards those ones a lot more so. But again, if this is your preferred playstyle, if you want to be a little bit more aggressive with the deck, this is a fine choice, and it still has a +1 mid block, meaning you still get value out of the defense on it as well, in addition to stun. And yeah, so that brings us to the end of this deck tech. I hope you guys enjoyed my defensive take on Shigaraki. I'm heavily debating actually playing this in an event. I've done some testing, but nothing formally crazy. My Tokoyami Fire that I did 2 weeks ago is the one I've tested the most. This is probably my second most tested, along with the Jiro deck. But yeah, there's a lot of playing to do, and like I said, set 2 is going to be a lot of potent changes for this deck. There's a lot of good cards under Death, and even some in Evil that are going to maybe make me shift to that symbol for this, specifically the defensive Life Sap playstyle. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Special thanks to our Patreon subscribers. And I hope you guys have a fantastic time. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Have a fantastic day.